What is going on, Odds Warriors? So I came across this video by a creator named Lillie Kane, and she talks about why she stopped intermittent fasting. Roll the quick clip.
However, there's always two sides to every story. And so while you may hear someone say that fasting is amazing for weight loss, it's a lifesaver, you may hear someone else saying that fasting is going to destroy your metabolism and tank your hormones. So which one is
Now,
it?
I'm not going to show her video because it's her video. You should go to her video to watch it. I'm not going to take away from viewing her video, but I am going to address certain points in her video because these are the more common arguments that I see on the surface level when it comes to intermittent fasting. These are arguments that are not involved in the minutia of the studies and the meta-analyses that we've seen for intermittent fasting versus controlled designs like just caloric restriction. She talked about a few aspects that I want to touch on because a lot of you might have these same exact questioning or questions, or might be questioning yourself in this same way. Am I getting a benefit? Is there anything that I'm doing specific? Like, can I do something else and lose weight? Even though, like, is intermittent fasting the true element that's making me lose weight? Or is this just a thing that's happening that's making me believe that it's intermittent fasting, but I'm actually just losing weight, and I could be doing that without intermittent fasting? That question is very common, right? So one of the things that she touches on is that the only reason that you're losing weight is because you are eating at a smaller window. You're eating in a smaller window using intermittent fasting. And because of this, you're reducing your caloric intake. Thus, you end up with a net negative energy balance. So you end up losing weight. That is true. That is true. The only way you can lose weight is with caloric restriction. Without it, you won't be losing weight. Doesn't matter if you do intermittent fasting. Doesn't matter if you do, eating 6 meals a day. If you're at a caloric surplus, you will be at a net positive energy balance. Thus, your body will, at the end of the day, gain weight as opposed to lose weight. But that's actually one of the benefits of intermittent fasting. It helps those who have struggled with controlling for calories to have a structural system that actually helps them ensure that they will be at a caloric deficit. That's a pro to intermittent fasting. People try to pretend like, oh, that's the smoke and mirrors of intermittent fasting, but that's actually the pro, because that's the mechanistic structure that allows for you to have this control, this cognitive awareness of the foods that you're eating, and help you when you couldn't do it before by simply having this wide open window where you eat whenever you want. So there does tend to be this kind of misguided way of thinking about the intermittent fasting process to try to diminish the usefulness of intermittent fasting, to say, oh, well, it's just caloric restriction anyways. Sure, but for a lot of people, just caloric restriction did not work for many, many years. And intermittent fasting allowed them to finally get into a caloric restriction. That's not even touching on the calorie partitioning factor that comes with intermittent fasting, because she never really touched on the metabolic switchover, the post-absorptive range after glucose and glycogen depletion, where your body has to tap into body fat so that it can provide energy to your brain. And the only way that it does that is by turning body fat into ketones. Thus, you actually burn more body fat specifically in comparison to if you were eating all the time and replenishing your glycogen all the time. So she didn't mention that, but that is actually an inherent benefit to intermittent fasting. You need calorie restriction, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't help accelerate fat loss faster than other systems, other methods of weight loss, because of the process of being in that post-absorptive state. The other thing that she talked about is that when she was doing intermittent fasting, and she says she's been doing intermittent fasting for about 6 years, the other thing that she said was the other thing that she said, and she stated that she's been doing intermittent fasting for about 6 years, or she did it for 6 years before she stopped, was that she was feeling negative effects from intermittent fasting. Now, here's the thing that's always the double standard or the hypocritical talking point of intermittent fasting. Her argument is that she started seeing that like her cycle was, she was missing cycles, right? She had like hair loss and she was feeling all these different ailments that was coming from intermittent fasting. But the truth is, it's not coming from intermittent fasting. See, this is what happens. When there are negative effects that take place because of a low calorie diet, a very low calorie diet, what ends up happening is, oh, this is because of intermittent fasting. These feelings that I'm feeling, because like missing your period and all that stuff, that comes from having a very low energy intake. So when you say to yourself, all these bad things that are happening to me because of intermittent fasting. I'm not getting enough calories because of intermittent fasting. But when you get the good stuff, the weight loss, that's not because of intermittent fasting. That's because of the fact that you're eating in a smaller window. Thus, that's because of calorie restriction. You see where the bias is leaning when they talk in this way? Both of those things are controlled by calorie restriction. Both of those things have the same tool set, the same archetype of intermittent fasting that's allowing for the calorie restriction to take place. Yet one dismisses intermittent fasting as the reason, the other uses intermittent fasting as the excuse. You see how this works when they're talking about intermittent fasting, how easy it is to muddy the waters with intermittent fasting? Very easy. The truth is, she's eating very, very, very low calorie. And the solution didn't even have to be for her to stop intermittent fasting. She said she needed to stop because she was stuffed. But she explained the stuff that she would eat. And she was eating just highly satiating foods. That's it. Low calorie, high satiety, like just steaks and stuff like that. If she would have introduced a variety of food types, carbohydrates, fats, protein, she would have, obviously protein is the most important, but she would have had more, an ability to consume more calories. But she ate almost strictly like steaks without anything else. That's going to be very hard for you to get your caloric, to consume what you need for calorically for the day with just eating steaks. You're going to get stuffed. I would get stuffed if all I ate was steaks as my meal. So she ended up quitting intermittent fasting because of it being difficult for her to consume enough calories. She also touched on the insulin sensitivity and how to increase insulin sensitivity. She stated that multiple days or multiple meals create lower spikes, while one big meal creates a bigger spike, and how you could just circumvent that by eating better foods that are not highly processed or carbohydrate or high sugar foods. Yeah, you can do that. But you can also do that and intermittent fasting, and it's even more potent, right? You don't have to say, hey, look, I'm just going to eat, because you're not supposed to be eating junk food when doing intermittent fasting. Can you have a thing here and there? Of course, but you're still supposed to be eating somewhat healthy when you're doing intermittent fasting. You're not supposed to be eating, all the junk in the world. You're supposed to be eating healthy when you're doing intermittent fasting. So you could eat healthy, not get that super boost, and also have do intermittent fasting so that your insulin is not constantly spiking. That's also an option where intermittent fasting helps heighten that process, helps make you more insulin sensitivity. And we've seen it or more insulin sensitive. And we've seen it in studies all the time, where insulin sensitivity continues to increase due to the group consuming their foods in a certain time window, either time restricted feeding or the warrior diet, 20 hours of fasting. Those things have shown themselves to be positive towards increasing insulin sensitivity. So basically, this video is just a response to that video, and it's not to say to do intermittent fasting. You must do intermittent fasting. For her, in the way she wants to eat, it just didn't work for her. And for a lot of people, it's not gonna work, right? So for some people, they can't consume so much calories in a short window. They can't, even if they do, eating normally and not just steaks all the time. They just can't do it. And for them, it might be that intermittent fasting isn't for them. Intermittent fasting doesn't necessarily have to be for everybody. And if you don't like to do it, then you necessarily don't have to do it at all. It's not a necessity. It is valuable though to those who have done calorie counting and have not been successful with it, and have finally found success with intermittent fasting. And on top of that, it does carry innate benefits. It doesn't just provide a way to structure yourself to not overeat. It also burns more fat specifically. And we've seen that in every study, every meta-analysis, where although the number might not be statistically significant, but it does burn about 5 to 10 pounds of fat more after a long period of time, after 6 months. And that might not sound like that's a lot, but this is 5 pounds of fat. That's 5 pounds. It might not sound like a lot, but over the course of years, months, years, it's a lot. So that's my 2 cents on her video. Not to attack her video, not to say that she's wrong. Her experience is her actual experience. And for her, it's whatever she experiences, that's the most important thing. Whatever she feels comfortable doing on a consistent basis, that's the most important thing. She didn't really dive into the study minutia in terms of intermittent fasting versus controlled designs. She didn't really tap into all of that stuff, into the actual metabolic breakdown of what goes on, but she shared her experience. For her, it's something that was too taxing to continue. But in the same coin flip, calorie restriction is something that's too difficult or too inconsistent for so many other people, and intermittent fasting provides them a different option that actually helps them get to their goals. So everyone's different. Some people could do just calorie restriction. Other people, intermittent fasting is what actually helps them. Anyways, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below, and we'll see you in the next one.